Get the peace of mind that only this video sponsor Incogni can offer by helping protect yourself from identity thefts, hacks, or worse. Get a 60% discount on an annual subscription when you use offer code SKILLUP at incogni.com/skillup. Click below to get started or stick around to the end of the video to learn more. Gamers, hello and welcome to This Week in Video Games. A day late this week for the simple reason that the Saros embargo was up last night, and I always like to give videos a little bit of space to breathe. If you missed that one, link below the like button, but man, what a video game. Holy shit. I will talk more about it later in the show, but just incredible stuff. Please go and buy it right now if you have a PS5. You will not regret it. With all the excitement around a big new first-party Sony exclusive releasing, you might be forgiven for thinking that the discourse would be centered there this week. But you'd be wrong, because believe it or not, Xbox said and did some stuff this week, and it was all good. Believe me, I'm as shocked as you are. Last week we talked about the internal discussions happening over at Xbox regarding Game Pass, which suggested that some shakeup was on the way, and this week that news has been confirmed. New Xbox boss Asha Sharma made the announcement herself on Twitter saying, quote, "Game Pass Ultimate has become too expensive for too many players. Starting today, we're dropping the price from $29.99 to $22.99 per month. Future Call of Duty titles will no longer join Game Pass Ultimate on day one. They will join this tier the following holiday after launch, about a year later. Current Call of Duty titles will remain available to Ultimate subscribers. We'll keep learning and evolving Game Pass to better match what matters to players," end quote. What she didn't mention here is that in addition to Ultimate getting a price drop, PC Game Pass was also getting a price drop from its current $16.50 per month down to $13.99 a month. And honestly, that's probably the biggest surprise here, since PC Game Pass has always been absurdly good value even after its price hike, and now it's just beyond ridiculous, because don't forget, PC Game Pass gets access to all day one first-party Xbox titles, except of course Call of Duty at this point. Speaking of which, the most notable thing about this price cut, other than the price cut itself, is the news that COD will no longer be day one on Game Pass. And as much as this sucks for the people not wanting or able to pay that premium price tag to play the yearly COD on release, it does make sense given the reports that Activision missed out on an estimated $300 million in revenue on the latest entry by having it on Game Pass. Sure, those are just estimates, and there's every chance that they wouldn't have seen all of those sales anyway given the game's poor reception, but it's inarguable that Xbox and Activision are taking a pretty big hit by making COD playable through a subscription service, unless of course it results in enough new subscribers to cover the difference. Clearly, it wasn't delivering the uplift that Xbox needed, and so they're making this call. The question on many people's minds now is, does this set a precedent? Will the next Elder Scrolls be held from Game Pass Ultimate until a year later? The next Halo? We can't know for sure, but if the next Call of Duty released later this year proves to the bean counters that this model works, it's not completely out of the realm of possibility that Xbox might look to do the same for other future first-party titles, even if it does make Game Pass less attractive. That's a tomorrow problem though. Today, this price cut is a good move from Xbox. While the price reduction isn't enough to pull it back to where it was prior to last year's price hikes, it is something, and it's appreciated at a time where price cuts are such a rarity, especially in the subscription space. And even with Call of Duty removed as a day one offering, Game Pass still offers tremendous value to those who want to experience a lot of games if you don't care about owning your games. And let's be real, many people don't. Game Pass delivers an increasingly vast library of games to access. There are still loads of other titles you're getting on there day one, and now you're getting them at a more affordable price tag. It's up to Xbox to find the sweet spot that works for them, their developers, and their customers. Maybe this is it, and maybe it isn't. Maybe they need to make further adjustments. Either way, it's definitely a step in the right direction. But that wasn't all Asha got up to this week, because later on, she and Xbox Chief Content Officer Matt Booty put out a joint statement that essentially reset the Xbox brand, or at the very least, set the stage for what they hope to accomplish during Asha's tenure. Titled "We Are Xbox," the statement begins with some fairly frank admissions. Quote, "Players are frustrated. New feature drops on console have been less frequent. Our presence on PC isn't strong enough. Pricing is getting harder for people to keep up with. And core experiences like search, discovery, social, and personalization still feel too fragmented. Developers and publishers are asking for more too, better tools, better insights, and a platform that helps them grow faster," end quote. It went on to note the shifting industry dynamics which are currently transforming the video games business, concluding with the declaration that, quote, "The model that got us here won't be the one that takes us forward," end quote. In terms of a blueprint, Sharma and Booty were fairly clear with where they want to see things go. Quote, "What does Xbox become in the next era? Xbox will be where the world plays and creates. We will build a global platform that connects players and creators everywhere. Console is the foundation, delivering a premium experience, and cloud brings that experience to any device. You can play where you want, and your games, progress, friends, and identity stay with you across console, PC, mobile, and cloud. Xbox will be built to be affordable, personal, and open. We will offer flexible pricing so it's easy to get started and keep playing. The experience will adapt to you, letting you customize how you play, helping you find what you love, and connecting you with the right people. And we will be open to all creators from individuals to the largest studios, giving anyone the tools to reach a global audience and keep their games growing over time. Our new North Star will be daily active players, end quote. So that all sounds pretty damn good, to be honest, and the statement concluded with a brand reset announcement. Presently, all of Microsoft's gaming initiatives fall under a business unit called Microsoft Gaming, but that's changing now. Quote, Microsoft Gaming describes our structure, but it does not describe our ambition. So we are going back to where we started and changing our team's name. We are Xbox, end quote. Along with that came the reveal of a shiny new logo that has some serious throwback vibes, and I gotta say, I kinda love it. But by far and away, the most interesting thing said in this entire statement was this little nugget. Quote, along the way, we will reevaluate our approach to exclusivity, windowing, and AI, and share more as we learn and decide, end quote. That is pretty big news. Xbox revisiting its approach to exclusivity could be an absolute game changer. Xbox is the largest third-party publisher on the planet, with more IP than you could shake a stick at. If they were to re-enter the exclusive content battlefield, that is going to immediately result in a shift in things like their hardware presence or how often they're engaging with the Xbox ecosystem. It's potentially transformative, so much so that we don't have time in this episode to imagine all of the ways that it could impact Xbox and its players, so I guess we'll cross that bridge when we get to it, since at this point, all Xbox have committed to is thinking about it. And I think that's a prudent approach to this whole statement, actually, since everything that's said here is good, but Xbox has always done a lot of talking, and very rarely has that talk delivered what was promised. This definitely seems like the right direction, though, and a strong starting point for Asha's tenure, since she clearly understands Xbox's current challenges and is exploring the right potential solutions to move Xbox forward. I think it's a strong statement of intent, but right now it's just that, a statement, and I think we'll have to wait to see how these ideas translate into actual action over the coming weeks, months, and beyond. Changing tack now, pun intended, the other major news this week was that at long last, Ubisoft's worst kept secret was finally revealed. Roll the trailer, Stu. God damn, I love that theme song. It has never been topped. Anyway, this is, of course, Assassin's Creed Black Flag Resynced, the remake of inarguably the best game in the series. Full stop, no discussion. I'm not making a scene, you are. And yeah, man, as someone who truly loves this video game, I was very, very nervous about what this remake would or wouldn't do. But I gotta say, so far, I think this looks and sounds pretty damn good, or at least most of it does. I'm really loving the visual uplift. The Caribbean was already a gorgeous setting, and now it looks even better. Alongside a top to bottom visual update, it also contains new storylines, characters, and quests, and a new weather system. Note that thankfully, this has not been reworked into an RPG akin to the more recent Assassin's Creed games, so structurally, it's very much in keeping with the original Black Flag. Thank goodness for that. Otherwise, I would have written a strongly worded letter to Ubisoft management, and then I would have recorded a reading of that letter and put gameplay over it and put it out as a YouTube video with the title, "They Ruined It!" Thankfully, we have all avoided that grim fate. Good job, Ubisoft. Even with their clear respect for the source material, Ubi are making some changes to some parts of the game, particularly the more criticized elements. The modern day Animus sections, for example, they were a bit of a love or hated affair depending on how engaged you were with that storyline. Either way, they've undergone quite a bit of tweaking, and now they're going to be more centered on building Edward's character rather than the Abstergo mystery stuff. Trailing missions also don't insta-fail you if you get detected anymore, so thank God for that. The biggest change, though, looks to be the combat. The original combat was very centered around counters, where you just spent a lot of time standing around waiting for enemies to attack you. It looked cool, but it was very simple, whereas now it seems to be a much more action-focused combat system similar to the modern AC games. I'm a little bit unsure about it personally, but I'll wait to get my hands on it before I judge it too harshly. Definitely not loving this parry animation graphic that occurs here. Like, what the hell is this? It looks like some kind of low-quality GIF. Can definitely do without that, thank you very much. Also worth noting, the remake won't contain any of the DLC nor the multiplayer. Mixed feelings about this, since the Freedom Cry DLC was actually excellent, so fingers crossed this new story content lets us spend a little more time with Adewale to make up for its absence. The multiplayer stuff, I'm a little less fussed about. It was novel, don't get me wrong, and we haven't had any multiplayer Assassin's Creed for a while now, so it might have been cool to bring it back, but at the end of the day, I'm not going to die in a ditch over this stuff, especially given that Ubisoft have future plans on that front anyway, with codename Invictus. Obviously, there's a lot riding on this one given Ubisoft's slew of cancellations and closures as of late. They really need Black Flag Resynced to succeed, and like I said, minus my questions around the combat, I'm really liking what I'm seeing. It looks to be a thoughtful love letter to the original game. It's clear the developers understood the source material and how important it is to people, and as such, they've made small changes to the parts of the game that needed changing, but appear to have otherwise retained everything that made the original game so good. So overall, a very solid reveal. Really keen to get my hands on this one, and the good news is that we won't have to wait too long, as it's actually slated for a July 2029 release. That's pretty damn soon. Get ready for pirate shanties to take over TikTok once again. This next story was actually an exclusive scoop from our website thisweekinvideogames.com. This week, former PlayStation boss Shuhei Yoshida was in Sydney speaking at an Australian games festival, Alt Games, and he certainly said some stuff. Our very own Ed Tran attended his talk titled "What Makes Indie Games Successful?" and there he made some interesting comments regarding his departure from Sony. Quote, "I helped Santa Monica to make God of War, Naughty Dog to make Uncharted and The Last of Us, and Sucker Punch to make the beautiful Ghost of Tsushima. Ghost of Tsushima was one of the last games that I worked on as the president of Worldwide Studios. But in 2019, after 11 years leading the first-party development, I was fired from the role. Jim Ryan wanted to remove me from first party because I didn't listen to him. He asked me to do some ridiculous things. I said no. Because I grew up with Jim from the PS1 days, you don't want to have one of your friends as one of your subordinates. I really enjoyed the role of promoting and evangelizing indie games," end quote. Note that apparently this was all said in quite a light-hearted and playful manner, so he doesn't seem particularly hung up about what happened, but this is the first time he's used the word fired to describe his departure. I think we were all under the impression that he left sort of voluntarily for his own pursuits, and yeah, after 31 years at Sony, he might have been gearing up for that anyway, but obviously the reality of his move out of that first-party studios role wasn't quite what we thought it was. This is also the first time he's spoken openly about his relationship with Jim Ryan, suggesting that conflicting ideas and direction were what caused him to move out of that role, and that certainly tracks. What he's likely hinting at here is that he probably wasn't on board with Jim Ryan's huge push for live service titles, at one point targeting 12 new live service releases by 2025, and obviously that has not gone well for them. And by hasn't gone well, I mean it's been an utter fucking catastrophe that has made this past generation feel like a lost one for Sony. On the other hand, Yoshida's record speaks for itself. The games he shepherded during his tenure were a major reason that PS4 absolutely demolished Xbox during that era, building a library so strong that Xbox was effectively dead by the time PS5 rolled around. Surely that's the kind of guy you should be listening to, not butting heads with, and certainly not firing. Anyway, it seems like he's very much enjoying the newfound freedom of running his own indie consulting firm. As Yoshida went on to say, quote, "I was helping indie publishers and developers at Sony for the last 5 years, so I feel like I'm continuing to do the same kind of thing, but now I am freelance. I'm free to show up on any podcast. Now I can talk about Nintendo, Xbox, Steam, and I get to see how Nintendo and Xbox support indies, so it's very, very cool," end quote. It's great to see him happy and thriving in his post-Sony career. He brought us all so much joy, and it's nice to know that he's getting some back because he certainly deserves it. What does Jim Ryan deserve? I don't think it's polite to say. Let's just move on. Here's something a little close to my heart. Battlefield 6, while its launch was a huge commercial success, Battlefield Studios really struggled to keep the momentum going. The months since have been awash with criticisms and disappointment around the game's seasons, citing an underwhelming amount of new permanent content, core features from past games still missing, and frustrations at new maps which are just too small to facilitate Battlefield's signature large-scale warfare. I can personally attest to this. I played the game a ton at launch. In fact, I felt so strongly about it that I made 3 separate reviews. But after a few weeks, I stepped away from the game as the new maps weren't doing anything for me, and I had no interest in any of the temporary game modes, and the progression remained painfully slow to a point where it felt almost comical. All of this may be changing soon though, as thankfully their recent roadmap aims to address pretty much all of the community's key complaints. 2026 will see the implementation of a server browser, leaderboards, a spectator mode, solo queue in the Battle Royale mode, proximity chat, and more. Perhaps the most exciting new thing is the promise of more bigger maps. In a Q&A session with developers that we attended, Battlefield Studios Senior Creative Director Roman Campos Aurelia admits that, quote, "Earlier in Battlefield 6, in the first seasons, we were slightly over-indexing on smaller or medium-scale type of maps. Now in Season 3 and 4, we want to deliver broader and bigger experiences to have that all-out warfare and larger-scale vehicle combat, but in the future for Season 5 and onwards, we'll continue to look at a balanced approach and we'll continue to release smaller or medium-sized maps and also much larger maps," end quote. It was also said that Season 5 would contain 3 new maps as opposed to the 2 maps in all the other seasons, likely in response to community feedback that 2 maps per season is too slow a cadence. If you're wondering whether this means 3 maps will be the new standard beyond Season 5 though, I wouldn't hold my breath, considering the vague response given by the executive producer Ryan MacArthur when he was asked that very question, quote, "Season 5 we treat as a sort of holiday surprise for us, and it's a big moment as we head into our 2nd year of live service, so we wanted to make sure that the season delivers something special. We still plan to stay within the current strategy we have, which is adapting our seasonal structure to meet the experiences we want our players to play," end quote. Previously, the studios have been doing a lot of talking and not a lot of doing, pumping out seasonal updates that failed to address core issues. The game isn't doing crazy hot as a result, but there's still a dedicated player base there, and I'm sure these updates will help make players feel a touch more optimistic about the future. I will certainly be logging back in when these changes make their way into the game, and I'm sure I won't be the only one. Let's kick over to the lightning round now, beginning with the BAFTA Game Awards, which more or less caps off the award season. As usual, Claire Obscure Expedition 33 led the nominations with representations in 12 categories, all up taking home Best Game, Best Debut Game, and Best Performer in a Leading Role for Jennifer English. Meanwhile, Dispatch scored 9 nominations, winning the award for Animation, Audio Achievement, and Performer in a Supporter Role with Jeffrey Wright, well deserved on all counts. Another notable mention included one of Ed's favorites, Despelote, winning Game Beyond Entertainment, Blueprints for Game Design, Arc Raiders for Multiplayer, No Man's Sky for Evolving Game, Death Stranding 2 for Artistic Achievement, and the Aussie-made Lego Party for Best Family Game. Nice, congrats. Not for nothing, but our very own Maddie Agnew from thisweekinvideogames.com was on the BAFTA red carpet and got the chance to interview some of these winners. For example, she spoke to Ad Hoc Studio co-founder Dennis Lennart about Dispatch, who says the game's success has meant the studio was able to, quote, take a little bit of a break and slow down and kind of look back at everything we've gone through. We spent a whole month just going through and auditing every part of the process. We want to make things as sane as possible from a development standpoint, end quote. Meanwhile, Tonda Ross, creator of Blueprints, commented on his success in such a stacked year, saying, quote, I think when you look at especially the behemoths, Hades 2, Silksong, I feel the only reason I snuck in was because people had played Hades and Hollow Knight, right? So like, because they're just tremendously good games, I think I just snuck up barely because I was a new thing, because in any other year, those take the cake 100%, end quote. I don't know, man, I wouldn't sell Blueprint short. Maddie also asked some of the voices behind Expedition 33 about what it was like dubbing over the motion capture, given it was all done before they had signed on. Daredevil himself and voice of Gustav, Charlie Cox, made an appearance, and he said, quote, I said to them after about 4 or 5 lines, it seems to me like the actor who's done the motion capture work has done a really beautiful job. Are you hoping for me to kind of reinvent this? Or are you hoping I will kind of match what he's done? And they were like, please, please do what he did. It's no lie that I feel like a bit of an imposter. I'm honored and humbled to be here, end quote. Maddie also spoke to the voice and face of Henry in both the Kingdom Come Deliverance games, Tom McKay, and she asked him what he thought about being potentially cast as Henry in the Kingdom Come Deliverance movie. He said, quote, you know, it would be very unlikely that I wouldn't want to do it again if I were offered, end quote. These are all first-hand quotes that we got because Maddie was there on the red carpet, and the only reason she was there was because of your support. BAFTA accredited This Week in Video Games as an official media outlet, and we wouldn't have got that access were it not for you guys signing up, reading articles, and chipping in as paid members. So a huge thank you to everyone who supported This Week in Videogames.com in some way. And if you haven't yet, we'd love it if you check it out, sign up for free, or even go the whole hog and maybe consider becoming a paid supporter so we can continue providing 100% ad-free original reporting. Some quick movie adaptation news now, and we've got some info on the Elden Ring film produced by A24 and written and directed by Alex Garland. According to an official post from Bandai Namco, it's being filmed for IMAX and slated for a March 3rd, 2028 release, with production beginning in spring of this year. The full cast has also been revealed, which includes notable stars such as Jonathan Pryce, Peter Serafinowicz, and Nick Offerman. Interesting. Could be good, could be bad. Either way, I will be seated at the midnight screening, gonna come dressed in full Dung Eater cosplay. Do not ask how far I'm willing to go to recreate that character. Speaking of eating shit, the Call of Duty movie also got a release date, June 30th, 2028. Is that mean? I was just joking, okay? Everyone calm down. It's fine, please. I'm sure the COD movie is going to be watchable. Moving on now, and after its European Citizens Initiative petition received over 1.2 million signatures, the Stop Killing Games initiative was recently presented at the European Parliament as part of a public hearing where it received support from multiple politicians. The founder of Stop Killing Games, Ross Scott, first opened with a presentation defining what exactly killing games entails, detailing how many online games are rendered completely unplayable once the servers are taken offline. One damning slide of his presented stats from a volunteer study that found of 1,100 video games that required connection to their publisher, 93% of them were disabled after support ended, before saying, quote, this business practice is responsible for more destruction to the medium than anything else by an enormous margin. There's also a correlation between this practice and the size of the publisher, as most studios do not engage in it as it requires far more resources and liability than they can handle. So even though this impacts a minority of games, it disproportionately affects customers due to the scale of the largest offenders, end quote. Multiple members of parliament then responded with widespread support, such as French MP Lila Chabi, who called this practice, quote, a disgrace, end quote. And Caterina Vieira from the Netherlands voiced strong support with some gamer quotes. Quote, when the publisher pulls the plug, we realize that our princess is in another castle. and we cannot allow digital preservation to take an arrow to the knee, end quote. I can't believe that's a real quote. Fair enough. Anyway, after the hearing, Scott posted a press conference on Twitch alongside SKG rep Moritz Katzner, where Katzner remarked that, quote, there was no member of parliament who wasn't responding positively, end quote. Love to see it. According to the ECI petition website, the next steps are essentially just waiting for the commissioner to propose a plan of action, and that, quote, if the commissioner believes new legislation is required, it will then start drawing up proposals, end quote. Best of luck to SKG. Hope they get it over the line. On the topic of killing games, WoW's biggest server, Total WoW, has announced it's shutting down after being hit by a court-backed cease and desist from Blizzard. Developer Torta said in a post on the Total WoW forums, quote, after almost 8 years online, Total WoW is heading towards shutdown. The final day of operation will be May 14th, 2026, and the servers will go offline at midnight on May 15th, end quote. Total WoW was basically a free-to-play version of classic WoW that has quickly grown in popularity, not just because of its lack of upfront cost and sub fee, but also because its developers were supporting it with an impressive amount of new original content that meaningfully expanded the base game, such as new zones, raids, dungeons, and gear, as opposed to just re-releasing the same expansions like Blizzard was doing. So this is a huge bummer, and I'd of course prefer that Blizzard not do this, but at the same time, I also know that Total WoW was actively advertising their game through paid ads, and was also offering cosmetics in return for donations to server costs. And sure, donations are absolutely necessary to fund server costs, but whenever money is involved, you can bet that companies are going to company. I will say though that the timing is interesting. Blizzard could have done this at any point, but they chose now, and you got to wonder why. Was Total WoW just getting too popular to ignore, or is Blizzard close to revealing their own plans for a similar approach to classic servers? Either way, this will no doubt act as a lesson to all other private server or fan game developers out there of what happens when you fly too close to the sun. Developer Iron Galaxy has, for the second time this year, been hit by layoffs. These guys worked on the PC ports for the Last of Us games and the Uncharted Legacy of Thieves collection, as well as the Switch ports for major releases like Apex Legends, Overwatch, and Skyrim. They're also the sole developer of the Epic Games-backed Rumbleverse, and most recently, the combined remake of Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3 and 4. Despite their impressive pedigree, they sadly had to lay off 66 developers back in February, and according to a recent LinkedIn post, they'll be laying off even more. Quote, Iron Galaxy Studios regrets to announce that we are reducing our company size. A number of teammates and friends are losing their jobs as we adjust to a new company structure. We are terribly sorry to lose them as we take steps to adapt to the climate of the video games industry. It's time for us to evolve again, end quote. As for the number of staff being let go, nobody knows for sure, but sources have told Kotaku that the restructuring could affect up to 90 employees. A real shame. An update on the whole Krafton/Subnautica 2 situation. The legal dispute between Krafton and the former leadership team of Subnautica developer Unknown Worlds has been resolved, at least a little bit. The court found that Krafton CEO Changhan Kim had seized control of Unknown Worlds in order to delay Subnautica 2 and avoid paying the leaders the promised US $250 million bonus contingent on revenue targets. As part of the plan to avoid the payout, it was deemed that Krafton, quote, locked down Steam's publishing rights to ensure Unknown Worlds could not publish Subnautica 2, end quote. Krafton has since been removed as Subnautica 2's publisher after the court ordered the reinstatement of former Unknown Worlds CEO Ted Gill, who was previously ousted by Krafton, stating that Gill, quote, may proceed with the early access release of Subnautica 2 when he deems it appropriate, end quote, and that Krafton must, quote, immediately restore his access to the Steam platform, end quote. So that's good news, but a weird twist in all of this is that a Krafton rep subsequently told PC Gamer that despite no longer being the game's publisher, they, quote, are currently focused on successfully supporting the early access launch of Subnautica 2, end quote, without elaborating on what exactly that means. So yeah, very odd indeed. Regardless, it's great to hear that things are back on track for Subnautica 2 and for Unknown Worlds, and for us, since I guess we'll be playing Subnautica 2 pretty damn soon. Finally, some sales news to close things out. According to Capcom, Pragmata has sold 1 million copies in just its first 2 days. They said it was primarily developed by younger Capcom developers, and that because it was a new IP, they relied heavily on marketing, which is why it got so many trailers and a free demo. So yeah, this is an excellent result for a game that wasn't really trying to make waves. It was just doing its own thing, boasting stunning visuals and a unique spin on combat, while leaning heavily on its video gamey charm. Seems like enough people have clicked with that, and hopefully that means Capcom might consider a sequel. Meanwhile, the early access release of pirate survival game Windrose has sold 1 million copies in just 6 days, half of those being sold in the first 2 days. Very impressive and a little surprised since we're kind of starved for a good pirate game right now. And from what I've seen, this looks pretty damn good. It's very similar to Enshrouded, which I really enjoyed. Might be a good one to tide us all over until Black Flag Resynced releases. Crimson Desert has now sold a whopping 5 million copies according to the game's official Twitter account. Well deserved, and it's still holding strong on Steam charts with a peak of over 85,000 concurrent players at the moment. I'm sure in part due to how fast the developers have been pumping out updates. Finally, market data firm Alinea Analytics estimates that Forza Horizon 6 has already already pre-sold 500,000 copies on just Steam. They note that spikes in pre-orders occurred during key moments like the reveal of the Japan map, as well as when hands-on previews went live. Interestingly though, they claimed that the highest spike was on the 13th of April, the day its achievements list was published. Wonder what that's all about. As a result of all of this, Forza Horizon 6 is currently third on Steam's wishlist charts, and Alanea says it's, quote, already the best-selling Forza title on Steam pre-launch, end quote. So what got announced or delayed this week? Well, we already covered the AC Black Flag remake, so let's say we go from pirates to whatever the hell the characters in Dragon Ball Z are, because this week, Bandai Namco announced Dragon Ball Xenoverse 3, their action fighting RPG based on the popular anime and manga. This series casts you as a custom character interacting with the story Dragon Ball universe, hanging out with all the characters and getting plenty of fan service while doing it. It's been 10 years since the last one of these, so the announcement went down a treat, but it's not slated until release until 2027, PC, PS5, and Xbox Series consoles. Speaking of anime, Nitro Gen Omega is a game we featured on the radar segment of this show when it hit early access. This is a turn-based tactical mech RPG where the action unravels in close-up cinematic fashion, kind of like you're watching a TV show or something. They announced a 1.0 and a console release for this one, 12th of May for all platforms. A couple of delay announcements worth mentioning now. Outbound, a wholesome survival game that sees you exploring the wilderness in a convoy van, got a month-long delay to May 14th. There's been a lot of interest in this one on Steam, so they definitely want to get it right, and it's coming to consoles as well. Meanwhile, He-Man and the Masters of the Universe, Dragon Pearl of Destruction is the retro beat-em-up based on the 80s cartoon, but it's also received a delay to sometime mid-2026 for a bit more development time. And I know you may be wondering, is that the longest game title of 2026? And the answer is no, because that prize goes to Super Mario Bros. Wonder Nintendo Switch 2 Edition plus Meet Up in Bellabelle Park. Stay winning, Nintendo. So what came out last week? Well, Pragmata landed with a big splash, which you love to see when it comes to new IPs. We covered it last week, but just to confirm, it's still sitting at a mighty 87 on OpenCritic, which makes it one of the highest rated games of the year so far. GameSpot gave it 9 out of 10 and said, quote, Pragmata is the total package, a blend of tense and satisfying combat elevated by deep underlying mechanics and strategic choices, all in service of telling an impactful tale that spends time nurturing the relationship between its memorable characters. It's one of my unexpected surprises of 2026 so far, and an early shoe-in for one of my favorites of the year, end quote. My review is also up, link below the like button if you're interested, but TLDR, Pragmata is great. It's another W for Capcom, who just can't stop serving them up, it seems. Except, of course, for Exoprimal. Rest in peace. Something that was a tad more divisive was Vampire Crawlers, the turbo wildcard from Vampire Survivors, which has still landed at a strong 82 on OpenCritic. The most notable outlier was actually PC Gamer, who gave it 50 out of 100, saying that it didn't really click until it was far too late. Quote, there's just too many better deck builders out there for me to recommend this interesting but deeply flawed genre mashup. There are moments of fun, especially towards the end, but too often I just wanted to ram a garlic-flavored steak through Vampire Crawler's repetitive, grindy heart, end quote. Jeez, okay. On the other side of the scale, however, were folks like Restart, who gave it 4 out of 5 stars, saying, quote, considering the hours you will get from Vampire Crawlers, it's hard to give it anything more than an enthusiastic recommendation. As a dungeon crawler, it's both competent and fun, but as an experience, you will likely find yourself enraptured. If you, like me, are the type of person to spend an entire weekend in a hotel room just playing Vampire Survivors on a Steam Deck, the exact same thing will happen with Vampire Crawlers. For the time you spend playing it, it will likely swallow you entirely, and whether that's a good thing or a bad thing is up to you and your loved ones, end quote. Taking a quick look now at Tides of Tomorrow, which is the asymmetrical multiplayer choice and consequence narrative game. That's landed at a strong 77 on OpenCritic, with lots of nice words to say about its inventive mechanic, where the state of the world is shaped by decisions other people have made for you, but opinions are a bit more varied on the rest of the package. Here's Checkpoint, who landed at a 6 out of 10 and reasoned, quote, Tides of Tomorrow is a textbook example of mechanics that would be better served in a stronger game. Its storylink system is compellingly eerie and smartly iterates on the social aspects of choice-based adventure games, and its resource management shapes player choices in clever ways, but neither can fully escape the leaking ship of flat writing, characters, and setting, end quote. So what's coming out this week? Well, it's a moderately big week for 2026, at least if you're using the scale where a new first-party Sony game equals moderate and GTA 6 equals big, but there are also plenty of nice-looking indies and early access titles too. We'll start with 83, which entered early access just before the show went live. This is on our radar as one of the few indie games attempting to do what modern Battlefield games do not. This is a 40v40 squad shooter set in an alternate 1980s where the Cold War has gone hot in Europe, and it's got vehicles and 30 to 40 minute long matches and objective-based gameplay and even a team commander role. Looks really interesting actually, PC only for this one. On Friday, April 24th, we've got a few smaller ones. The first of them is Snap and Grab, the Hitman-style heist game, which is also set in the 80s, albeit a much more glamorous one. You might remember that the shtick for this one is that the gameplay revolves around photography and planning out routes, objectives, and targets for your team who will execute the plan once you're done. This is also doing what Hitman originally did by putting out episodes featuring one big sandbox stage each, First one's out on Friday, and the rest throughout 2026, PC only for this one. The other one for Friday is Little Nightmares VR Altered Echoes on PC VR, Quest, and PSVR 2. It's a new take on the popular series being developed by an outfit called Iconic. Not sure what to make of this one, to be honest, so looking forward to the reviews from the handful of places still actually covering VR content. Right, jumping over to Monday, April 27th now, we're kicking off with Moomin Troll Winter's Warmth. What the heck is Moomin Troll, you might be asking? Well, it's a really dark Finnish kids comic that started in the 1940s and eventually got super popular in Japan and other parts of Asia because they made a bunch of anime about it. An outfit called Hyper Games made a video game based on it a couple of years ago for Raw Fury, and that went down so well that they're back at it, but they're self-publishing this sequel. It's described as a heartwarming but existential adventure game. It's hitting PC, Switch, and Switch 2. The very next day we have something that's even darker, Diablo 4 Lord of Hatred. That's right, time to jump back in and kill messed up demons while drowning in piles of loot. We love it. This is the big paid expansion for Diablo 4 this year with a new region, 2 new classes in the Warlock and the Paladin, and a more flexible endgame structure. Reviews of this one are already out, always a sign of confidence, and on OpenCritic, things are currently sitting at a strong 83. PC Gamer was one of the publications on the higher end of the scale, and here's what they had to say when they scored this one 90. Quote, "The changes in Lord of Hatred target Diablo 4's greatest flaws, and instead of slapping on quick fixes, Blizzard have found creative new solutions to avoid the pitfalls of the past. The result puts Diablo 4 in a great position to keep growing, but it isn't necessary to focus on potential here. It's an exceptional action RPG right now. There's never been a better time to play Diablo 4. My review is also out, link below the like button, and I'm inclined to agree with PC Gamer here, with the important disclaimer that Diablo 4 has cemented itself as the accessible yin to Path of Exile's intimidating yang. With Diablo 4, you're there for a good time, not a long time, as the overall game pacing is focused on getting you leveled and geared quickly so you can smash out a few characters each season, take a break, and then come back refreshed to do it all again when the next season drops. For those of you who are looking for an ARPG that will meet you on your terms rather than the other way around, and D4 is a slam dunk, but if you're looking for something deeper, slower, and more demanding, then you may have to seek other shores. Those are just my high-level thoughts though, and if you'd like to see the full review, like I said, link below the like button. By the way, don't forget to hit the like button. Thanks. Moving on to Tuesday, and we've got Aphelion, the new cinematic narrative game from Don't Nod, which is a sci-fi thing with 2 astronauts stranded on a distant ice planet, and you have to survive in extreme conditions. Cool premise with choice and consequence gameplay. Come on to PC, PS5, and Xbox Series consoles, and it will also be on Game Pass. And then Thursday, April 30th, we have an absolutely stacked day with a couple of Steam Early Access titles. One is Heroes of Might and Magic Olden Era, the revival of the classic tactics RPG, only this time published by Hooded Horse, who has ripped it out of the hands of Ubisoft to make sure it appeals to the niche audiences that will best appreciate it. On the same day, we've also got Sledding Game, a nice little friend swap game that's going viral over on TikTok. Joining those games is Invincible Versus, a new tag team fighting game being developed by an outfit called Quarter Up, staffed by several developers who worked on Killer Instinct. This one held a playtest a few weekends ago, and while fighting game sickos were a little skeptical, there's every chance that the Invincible license will help this one find an audience. PC, PS5, and Xbox Series consoles for this one. And finally, ending on the biggest one of them all, it's Saros, the new cinematic bullet hell roguelike thingy from the absolutely insane people at House Mark, who so far have never made a bad video game. They just don't know how to do it. This one is a spiritual evolution of everything they were doing with Returnal, only now it's about a creepy eclipse and it stars Rahul Kohli. There is so much more to it, and I know that because I actually reviewed it. Link below the like button. Let me tell you right now, I absolutely fucking loved Saros. I loved Returnal, and I didn't think it was possible for Housemarque to top what they did there, but they topped it in every conceivable way. Storytelling, visuals, level design, weapons, enemies, sound, music. Oh my god, the music. It's just an absolutely incredible video game that at times doesn't even feel like a video game. Like the setting and music and sound and controls, it all coalesces to create something that just completely immerses you and you are just locked in and jacked up and mom spaghetti. It's fucking amazing, man. I love it so much. I'm sure you will too. So if you have a PS5, please just go out right now and buy it. You're not going to regret it, trust me. As an added bonus, we actually interviewed the game's creative director on the podcast this week. His name's Gregory Luden, and it turns out he's an Australian, God bless. We had a really fascinating chat about what he and his team set out to create with Saros and how they managed to improve on everything that Returnal served up. Really insightful game maker, great chat, and that goes live this weekend as part of the Friends Per Second podcast here on this channel or wherever you get your podcasts. Just search for Friends Per Second and you'll find us. Speaking of podcast guests, put this on your radar.
Do not play my video game, do not buy my latest software product. It'll dry clean your brain, it'll keep you up late. It's known to the state of California to induce vivid hallucinations and daydreams while driving. It's said to have side effects, not unlike those found in cigarettes.
This is Titanium Court, a game that is initially very hard to describe, helped in no small part by the developer's unwillingness to describe it at all in trailers or marketing. Its Steam description simply says it's a, quote, surreal strategy game for clowns and criminals, end quote. Okay. The team here has been playing it and absolutely loving it, and we are not shy about telling you what the hell this thing is. It is a strategy game at heart, to be sure, with troop and building management, but the twist is that the map for each battle starts off as a match 3 game, where you can either try to alter the terrain to your liking or completely mess it up. It's also structured somewhat like a roguelike, where you're attempting various runs, but the narrative that ties it all together between the runs is really the secret sauce that makes it so compelling. It's a mix of modern iconography and fantasy themes and some really cryptic but sharp and humorous writing, and a constant sense of playful but eerie and mysterious vibes that just makes you want to keep peeling the layers back. You might recall us talking about how this game was nominated for several awards at the Independent Games Festival Awards, which actually forced the game to be announced by developer AP Thompson, and it eventually won both the Innovation Prize and the Grand Prize the second year in a row for AP, actually. Bringing it back to what I said at the top, we've actually got AP joining us on the FPS podcast this week to talk about Titanium Court and its whole deal. So if you're curious, do tune in for that this weekend as well. That's an absolutely massive episode of the Frames Per Second podcast. And if you want to check out Titanium Court directly, we've left a link to it over on our Steam Curator page, which also has links to all of the other Put This On Your Radar stuff we've recently covered. I'll leave a link to all of that below the like button. Our Feel Good story for the week is a nice one for a bunch of reasons, and it relates to one of the best RPGs of the past decade, Kingdom Come Deliverance. Right now, there's a sale on Steam that lets you pick up the original Kingdom Come for about $5. That's crazy, by the way. Absolutely incredible game for $5. Thing is though, as cheap as that is, developer Warhorse Studios are planning to make even less money than that from every sale, because while the game is discounted, Warhorse will be donating $1 from every sale to the reconstruction of one Perkstein Castle. Fans of the game will know that Perkstein is an actual castle in the Czech Republic that dates back to the 14th century, and it was lovingly recreated in Kingdom Come Deliverance as one of the game's central locations. It was very much in keeping with Warhorse's overall approach, which was to make a game that was as historically accurate as they could manage so as to celebrate Czech history and culture. Clearly, their commitment to that goal extends beyond the confines of the video game, and this is a really nice initiative that will no doubt generate a decent chunk of change, since KCD continues to be a big seller on Steam even after all these years, and especially when it's just $5. If you want to grab it now, then do get in quick. You'll get an amazing generational RPG, and Perkstein Castle will get a facelift. Everyone's a winner. All right, that was a big show, but it's finally done. April is all but wrapped up now, and we're getting ready for a fairly chunky May with the likes of Mixtape, Forza 6, Lego Batman, and 007 First Light. Gonna be huge, and we're gonna be covering all of it by way of reviews and coverage on the weekly news show, aka the show you're watching right now, the one you've already dropped a like on, right? Oh, what's that? You haven't clicked the like button yet? Shame on you, but don't worry, there's still time. It's right there. And while you're down there, don't forget to also hit the subscribe button and ding that notification bell so you'll never miss a video. A big thanks again for watching. We always do appreciate it. Have a great week, and we'll see you real soon. And also, don't forget to check out this video's sponsor, Incogni. This video is sponsored by Incogni, specialists in helping you regain control of your online presence and privacy through helping protect your data from identity thefts, hacks, or worse. If you ever searched yourself on Google, we've all done it, but the amount of personal information publicly available that surfaces when you do is staggering, and all of it adds to your online vulnerability. And the truth is, removing your data from as many corners of the internet as you can is a relentless and exhausting process. But luckily, Incogni is here to help. Incogni makes it super simple. You sign up, you enter your details, you grant it the required permissions, and after that, Incogni steps in and sends out hundreds of automated requests to reclaim your data. If you see your information pop up on a site that Incogni hasn't been able to reach, Incogni also offers a custom removal option where you can tell it precisely where to remove your data from. Some exclusions apply, of course, but this does give you even more agency over where your data appears. Incogni has sent out over 177 requests on my behalf, which has resulted in my personal data being removed from 171 websites. 171. I didn't even know that my data was on 171 websites in the first place. Thankfully, it no longer is, thanks to Incogni. Oh, and if I was to have submitted those requests myself, doing all the paperwork and back and forth, it would have taken me around 128 hours, making Incogni incredibly well priced given how much value it delivers. Also, since data can reappear on sites when it's already been taken down, Incogni will circle back and repeatedly remove it for you, saving you even more time and energy. It's super easy, super effective, and best of all, super affordable. You can use offer code SKILLUP at incogni.com/skillup to get 60% off an annual subscription. Take your personal data back and get a 60% discount while doing it by visiting incogni.com/skillup and using offer code SKILLUP at checkout. Thanks Incogni for sponsoring the video, and thank you for watching it.